Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, we're back and talking about the fact that the city of Oakland has pitted not one, but now four developers, if you will, for the right to build on the Oakland Coliseum, at least the city side of it, the city side of the ownership. The county side of it is owned by the Oakland Athletics. So here we have, in no particular order, Floyd Kephart, Renaissance, the African American Sports Entertainment Group led by Red Bobbitt. We have the group that is led by a person who's always showed up in discussion regarding development of the Coliseum, but has never actually presented a development he has ever done, Rick Tripp and his group. Now, as I understand it, first of all, let me get this out of the way. As you know, if you've watched this before, if you're watching this right now, I have had powerful objections to the way the city of Oakland has handled this. And I stated them, and I'll state them again for anybody watching or for those who watch, but like Jason Cole, are afraid to contact me and really talk about the history of this project, which I have that he doesn't have, or Chris DeBenedetti, who's been down this road, but from not the standpoint of a journalist, the standpoint of representative of the city of Oakland, when Oakland Mayor Ron Dellums made him the head of the Sports Entertainment Task Force in 2009. So there are a lot of agendas that come with this that really shouldn't be here, okay? But c'est la vie. Here we are. This all started because of the availability to purchase the land. It also started because there hasn't been a concerted effort by the part of the athletics to really build on Coliseum property. The athletics, and it's not a criticism, it's a fact, wanted and want to build at Howard Terminal. However, the hyper-politicized process has turned off Major League Baseball, which for all intents and purposes actually owns the Oakland Athletics franchise. And so the Major League Baseball has instructed Athletics president Dave Kaval to go on a dual path, Howard Terminal and Las Vegas. And for those of you who've asked me, I'm waiting for the time when the Athletics release the artist rendition for a ballpark in Las Vegas. That will change the game. It will change attitudes. It will change directions. And it will cause a number of other actions to develop, because the reality that the A's are serious about moving will have set in. I'm not saying the A's are going to move, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that Oakland is their best bet to remain, because the Athletics have spent so much money here, because Howard Terminal would be a terrific place to have a baseball or a stadium, and that place needs to be remade. It needs to be upgraded. The problem with the Coliseum is that the Coliseum has never received a serious upgrade, save for those moments when a sports organization was going to leave. Doesn't matter if it was the Warriors or the Raiders or the A's. But some of you would yell, wait a minute, we have Coliseum City. But you know what? Coliseum City has sort of been a placeholder, all right? It didn't happen because the city has not put money behind it that sustains it, regardless of what organization, sports organization, stays or goes. And that was the NFL's criticism during their whole Raider issue, and they were right. And the NFL has proven to be correct, even before the Raiders. This was Eric Grubman's call. Eric Grubman took a look when he was the executive vice president for business affairs for the NFL over NFL properties, he took a look at the plan for the Coliseum area and saw the hole where a stadium would be and said, this is not a stadium development plan, it is a land use plan. And he was right. Oakland has done one thing with respect to the Coliseum consistently. It's done it wrong. And it continues to do it wrong. And the latest stanza in this is this racist competition established between the African American Sports Entertainment Group, which is overqualified to be involved in this and should be the master developer, and Dave Stewart. And Dave Stewart, look, I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to say they're a wonderful couple. Lonnie is a terrific person. They're a partner with Monty Poole. But from a professional standpoint, what the heck are you guys doing? Okay. You presented a plan, but you don't have a plan. The last plan that was presented was the one that was sent to me. And that's the one where the person that you had, and what I'm talking about is this one. Okay. This. All right. Where I said the baseball great and his development partner want to team with a tribal lands developer for the light on specifics proposal, focusing on tribal casinos and hotel development, the Coliseum land. And I discussed it in my live stream. Okay. And it continues to be light on specifics, and which is ridiculous. I mean, you can't get anyone to finance something unless you have a track record, and you don't. Unless you have specifics and ideally a series of tenant partners that are saying, you know what, we're ready to go. Let me hold that thought one moment here. I'm going to have to mute. Okay, Mike, you muted. As I was saying, what they did, talking about Dave Stewart and company, was present this plan that has been written about. And if you want to, it's over at Oakland News Now. All you have to do is go to Oakland News Now and type Dave Stewart in the search bar. Okay. But what I wrote then was a source who wished to remain anonymous sent to this vlogger a 7-page copy of a document called Confidential Letter of Intent to the City of Oakland, Dave Stewart, and LJB Enterprise LLC Development Team. And it was a 7-page document, which is still available for you. And they offered to pay $115 million, but they wanted the development agreement to be secured with just a $10,000 deposit. Is that still the case? And all right, is that still the case? And as I continued to go through it, it was developed by a guy named Larray J. Bilton, hence the L, J, and B. And as I understand, Lonnie said that she was no longer involved with him, but is that the case or not? Because Dave and Lonnie had not sent me an updated version of what they sent to Larry Gallegos of the City of Oakland. All right. And he was listed as the partner. He's a former nuclear physicist at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And he sued the Bank of America in a lawsuit called LBJ Enterprise L versus Colton. And I said that the City of Oakland should look out, because from the looks of search that I did, he's litigious. You know, he will sue you if he feels that he has been wronged in some kind of way. So the city, and I'm saying this with respect to the City of Oakland because of the way this whole process has been handled. All right. And as I wrote here, and still continues to be the case, there is no evidence that he's actually built a development project. Now, that's okay. It's okay to come in and say, hey, look, we're brand new, but we have this idea. Here's our strengths, all right? Okay? But the proposal that they wrote seemed to show County Center Prince George as a model for the Oakland Coliseum. Now, County Center Prince George is a mixed-use development that they claim to have built, all right? County Center Prince George is described as urban planning department in the Lake Arbor, Maryland. And then they said it was conceptually encompassing 46 acres just off the Capitol Beltway, which is I-495 at the heart of Prince George's County, Maryland. And it had this sprawling, phased and renewed combination of office, retail, and entertainment, hotel, and residential uses, okay? And providing 2 million square feet of new construction opportunities in a 24-hour community. That was the plan, all right? And they talked about the current zoning. They didn't talk about financing, okay? They said they were going to build a walkable community. And then what I wrote then is there's no news or civic documents or reports posted to confirm the project has been built. And financing information was clearly not present. And that wasn't to say it didn't exist, but hey, if it had of, I would have been able to find some note about it, some news report about it. It was nothing. I wrote that what's clear at that point was a proposal was submitted and one that clearly now presents a competition for that site. Okay? And I said it looks more and more like absent a formal process for developers to apply and build on any city-owned land. It's a free-for-all. And this is what I was talking about with respect to the city of Oakland. It's a free-for-all, okay? And this is part of that free-for-all. All right? And then I wrote something that I stand by, and it's still obvious to this day. Raymond Bobbitt's Oakland NFL leadership group is being used by the city of Oakland to gain more attention for that property. Note that, as I understand it, it's weird, too, that both Floyd Kephart and Rick Tripp have decided to sort of wait and to see what the Oakland Athletics are going to do. But Dave Cavall has told me on my show twice that the A's have no interest in that property. That's someone else's deal. So what's the real reason why it just so happens that the white developers, if you will, because that's what, I mean, if you want to look at the way the San Francisco Chronicle put it up, because they put out black developers, note that when they talk about the Coliseum and it's all the development groups, they don't say, hey, the white developers, right? So this is racist. That's why I say this is racist. Why would the Chronicle put black developer out there? What's the point? It can't be because Rick Tripp and Floyd Kephart decided to basically wait to see what Cavall's done, because Cavall has said he's not interested. So there's something else that's up here. Why the hell would the Chronicle use a racist headline like that? And I say racist in the context of they're not, that piece was not written to celebrate that, oh, African Americans have a seat at the table. That's not how it was even presented at all. There was no historical timeline or anything. It wasn't done with a romantic sympathy for the plight of African Americans who are simply trying to build edifices that generate their own economic flows and pay for themselves over the long run. That's what this is all about. But you don't hear that. You don't see that. Okay? And I remind everybody of something else and it's something that I'm going to present in a moment, that was presented by the Neiman Media Research Group, and where they were talking about how basically white audiences, the news is made by white organizations in America for white audiences. All right. And that because that's who will pay. This was done this year. All right. White audiences who will pay is still Metro newspapers' survival strategy. So when you see something that's written by the Chronicle, they're not seeking to make black folks like you and me happy. They're targeting a white audience. I repeat, they are targeting a white audience. All right. So this whole thing has the ugly specter of racism that just poured all over it. And I don't mean in a good way, like, pour some sugar on me. Did I say that right? Pour some sugar on me. It ain't like that. Oh no, we ain't talking about pour some sugar on me. No, we're talking about something that's just a lot more, that's not sweet. It's ugly. It doesn't look good. All right. Raymond Bobbitt's city, Oakland NFL ownership is being used by the city of Oakland. And I wrote, in my opinion, the city of Oakland is using Oakland and San Francisco entrepreneur Ray Bobbitt's proposal to form an effort for a black group to bring an NFL team to Oakland as a tool to gain interest in the Coliseum, JPA Oakland land by driving up the price to buy Oakland's share of it. It looks dirty, underhanded, and mafia-like in its approach. And I said the city of Oakland lacks a true process, and it does. It's piecemeal. Let me put it this way. Let me cut to the chase. When you have organizations like Loop Capital involved, and basically pretty much a star chamber of African Americans in real estate and finance looking at this project or involved in it, there should be no question who the master developer should be. And that's the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. But to establish a lens as if these are equal groups is in and of itself racist, because it means you're downplaying the power of Loop Capital among other organizations to finance infrastructure and build things just because the organization is black. That's what's going on here. If that's not an outrage to you, and if that's not an outrage to Mayor Shaft, we've gone nutso. Okay? And we've reached a point where racism truly is a mental illness. And people doing it need to have appropriately medicated so they can stop this behavior. And I'm saying that bluntly, just like this, because I have had it, and you should have had it too. This is wrong. It is wrong for the city of Oakland to conduct itself this way. And it's wrong for this constant wave of racism to wash all over everything Oakland does with respect to public development, not involving the Port of Oakland. The city, to say the city should be ashamed of itself goes without saying. Okay? But it should. But it should. Absolutely. Let me take you through the rest of this. I wrote that there is no language specifically prohibiting pay to play. There's no further document pointing out what a potential developer needs to show in order to prove the city of Oakland that it is capable of doing what it says it can do, and if not, what kind of assistance it needs, and that could lead to lawsuits. That's what I wrote here. And I wrote that, moreover, allowing Raymond Bobbitt's lofty objectives of a black-owned NFL team in Oakland to be treated in this way shows the city of Oakland itself, including the Oakland City Council and Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, that does not share the idea that there should be a black-owned NFL team in Oakland. You have to keep talking about equity. But hey, I made a video the other day saying, oh, they're talking about equity, but guess what? Actually, I didn't make the video. What I did was I advanced the video, the liking on YouTube, and then I put in the captions and the title, hey, they're talking about equity, but there are no black folks in the video. It's a City of Oakland video. All right? This is the Oakland that we have developed today. A bastion of institutional racism. And so I continued. I wrote that, and this is all happening in Treva Reed's watch. And Treva is the District 7 councilman who replaced her father, Larry Reed, when he elected not to run, and she won. Okay? So where's Treva? I don't know. I understand she is supportive of Ray's group, Let me tell you something. California law and case law allows an elected official to state that they favor a development group without censure. That is legal. So for those of you who think it's not, you need to study the law. It's legal. I learned that way back in 1994 when I was Montclarian columnist, and I found out that then Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris had favored Michael Baines to build Oakland housing. And Elihu got mad at me, and I ran into him at the Pritkin Mansion for a party for then Mayor Wellington Webb fundraiser. Yelling, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" So I actually did some research, and I found 6 different examples of case law that backed an elected official saying that they wanted Daffy Duck, not calling Michael Baines Daffy Duck, but they wanted Daffy Duck to build the new, a Hoboken Live or something like, well, not in the more appropriate, the California parlance, Jack London Square Live. Okay. So that's what the mayor has the right to do. And then I wrote that what Oakland should have done and still can do is adopt Ray Bobbitt's objective, where you assemble a team paced by Loop Capital that can get it done as its own, and then structure a process where other would-be developers can play with Ray Bobbitt's group as master developer. I said that then, and guess what, folks? Guess what? The idea still matters today. It still applies. It still applies today. And for those of you who would say, well, we've never had a situation where, for example, Oakland was the master developer. Well, we actually did. The example was the Fox Theater, but what Oakland did was they hired Phil Tagami to be the fee developer for them. So they got a developer consultant. They got Phil because Phil had then and still has now tremendously an expertise in the redevelopment of adaptive reuse buildings, which were hot in the 80s and 90s. And he did a fantastic job with the Rotunda, which is his company's headquarters, and with the Fox Theater, which is now a cultural center, once again, for Oakland. So the city of Oakland could make Ray's group master developer. It's not a question of money, but get this. There are people who on Oakland staff who thought it was all white. It's almost like the real life Wakanda, where you have King T'Challa who comes into Oakland for the first time, and this really could happen, right? And yet, but see, here's the thing. You can understand why no one's heard of Wakanda, because they didn't want to be known. But the city of Oakland in real life is acting like Ray and his group are Wakanda because they've never heard of Loop Capital, and they act like there are organizations who are black that, as far as they're concerned, might as well be ghosts. That's insulting. It's insulting for city staffer to go into a meeting having done zero research about the people that they're going to meet with. Right? Okay? That's what's gone on here. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous. And yet Dave Stewart and Monty Poole and all they could just simply say, you know what? We can't match them. All right. Remember that racism is a mental illness. And this is, if you want to know what Dave Stewart put together, here it is. It's right here in this document. All you have to do is go to Oakland News Now, type Dave Stewart, look for the post that has Dave's throwing a pitch out on it. And that's this one that I'm scrolling up right now. Okay, here, right here. Okay. Boom. That's all you have to do. All right. Right there. Okay. That's all you have to do. And I think if I actually go back in history here, you can actually see the list that comes up. See, there's the search list. All right. So let me scroll up a little bit so you can see what it looks like. It's in the center there. Okay. The Zinnia 62 is the one that I'm currently on. And then it's in the middle. All you have to do is click on it. And you can see for yourself what they submitted to the city of Oakland. They haven't improved on that. Why do I assert that? Because they haven't sent anything to me. Okay? They haven't sent anything to me. And Dave shouldn't be out there trying to Lone Ranger this. If he has the A's backing, he should say so. I don't think so. I think the reason why Dave Stewart has gone this far is because he would love to be a partner with the A's and Howard Terminal, but for reasons best known to the Athletics, they haven't let him in. They should. Okay? So from that angle, I completely understand where he's coming from. If indeed that's what's going on. But hey, look, optics are everything. That's what it looks like, because otherwise he'll be part of that group. And what better person? What better ambassador for Oakland A's-ness to have involved in the Howard Terminal project than Dave Stewart? Right? So for the A's to not have Dave Stewart involved in and of itself is shameful. It just is. Now, knowing the Athletics and Dave, they'll say, well, we'll find him a place when it's appropriate, but right now we need X, Y, and Z. You know, Dave could assist Taj Mahal, the Athletics virtuoso government affairs representative around the city. They could have employed him in that fashion and made him a partner. That's certainly what I would have done, and the A's could still do that. They need to do that now more than ever, because it's clear that whatever's driving Dave and Lonnie, it has to do with being excluded at some point along this value chain of events that I hesitate to call a process, regardless of whether it's the A's or the city of Oakland. You have two organizations that, for different reasons, have been treated in a way that's racist. It's got to stop. The best way for it to stop is for Lonnie to team up with Ray Bobbitt, because I'm sorry, Dave, you do not have their wealth. Plus, they went out and they did community outreach. You didn't do that. They've got hundreds of people behind them in Oakland. You guys don't have that. All right? So that's where this is right now. Where you've been served up as fodder for a white media organization to call you, basically black developers and then throw it behind a paywall. Because that's what the Chronicle did. And no, I didn't go behind the paywall. I found the cash version. I didn't have to. So anyway, that ends this broadcast. Call for a real process and stop the racism. Bring these two organizations together. Subscribe to Zinnia 62. Oh, and by the way, I have to point this out. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. No one calls the other two developers, Rick Tripp and Floyd Gephardt, white developers. I haven't seen that from the Chronicle or anyone else. But black developers, yes, black developers. Oh. What's up with that? Think about it. See ya.